was. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the work that you and your team have done for our community and for the greater community. Before I get into the meat of this presentation, I just want to give another shout out to a couple of our dignitaries that are here today. Human Rights Commissioner Nahal Iravani-Sani, fighting the good fight on the front lines every day in the city, advocating for our community. And again, Public Defender Jeff Adachi. During my time at the DA's office, I went up against some of your best and brightest who've done a really good job training that team. So, thank you. Wow. I can't tell you how honored I am to be up here giving you this introduction. Judge Nahal Iravani-Sani. Wow. Your Honor, I can't believe I'm saying this, and I can't believe I get to stand here to introduce you. I'd like to take you and our esteemed guests on a trip down memory lane. I went through my emails, and I found our first correspondence dating back to May 13th, 2010. It said, quote, Nima John, that's me, in case you were confused. Nice meeting you last night. That was our first meeting. Here is the info regarding tonight's event. I hope you will be able to make it. I applaud you on your active participation. If you have any other questions about the law school process, practice of law, or community involvement, do not hesitate to ask. And hesitate, I did not. Your Honor, I hope you don't regret sending that email. Since May 13th, 2010, I have leaned on you for every major life decision related to my education and my career. What law school should I go to? Where should I interview? Can you help me with my resume and cover letter? What job should I accept? How do I transition from big law to the DA's office? Emails, phone calls, texts. Your Honor, the record is clear. Guilty on all counts. I would not be here without your support. You encouraged me to join the Iranian American Bar Association as a student representative back in 2010. You guided me every step of the way, and 8 years later, here we are. Here we are. But you see, you have been a mentor not just for me, but for our entire community. I can't count the number of lawyers and aspiring lawyers in this very room who call you their personal mentor. Your parents, who have graced us with their presence here tonight. They came to this country, the United States, like many of ours in this room, to pursue higher education and go back home and build a good life. On their return, they faced a revolution that brought them back to California. I guess there's a silver lining there. We got you. Our immigrant parents faced similar challenges, from the revolution in Iran to the hostage crisis, the Iran-Iraq war, discrimination, feeling like an outsider, feeling displaced. They had no playbook to follow in this country when it came to their kids and navigating the path to success. But they knew one thing for sure: education was key. With no playbook, the path wasn't easy. It came with mistakes, it came with obstacles. It wasn't perfect, but you made it. Success in law school, respect as a prosecutor, and now the apex of your career, the first Iranian-American judge ever appointed to the Santa Clara County Superior Court. Yes, round of applause. You, Your Honor, you took the brunt of the challenges facing a young immigrant child growing up in a new world, a new language, and a new system. You blazed the trail, you broke the glass ceiling, and you turned around, extended your hand, and you handed us not just a page from your playbook, but you gave us the whole damn playbook. Because of your investment in us, you have helped raise a generation of Iranian-American lawyers that pursue the same values that make you an excellent judge. Kindness, investment in the community, hard work, respect, humility, and most importantly, an unflinching drive to do the right thing. Thank you for all that you've done. Thank you for all that you continue to do. Ladies and gentlemen, Judge Nahal Iravani-Sani.
That was such a beautiful, warm, gracious introduction. Really took my breath away. So, thank you, Nima. Good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. I remember last year's annual gala vividly. It was held a little bit later in the year. It was held on November 3rd, 2017. And the reason why I remember it so vividly is because it happened to be the very next night after the governor's press release had come out announcing the news of my appointment to the Superior Court. And as you can imagine, it was a surreal time in my life. The news was just sinking in, and I was processing it all. And then when I arrived here at IABA, I went to the same tables that are set up here tonight to pick up my name tag. And then I have to tell you, it momentarily took my breath away because I saw for the first time ever the word honorable before my name. Woo! I ended up leaving it down there. Being the sentimental geek that I am, I held on to that name tag, and I actually brought it, I brought it here with me tonight. The organizers and the leaders of IABA were kind enough and quick thinking enough to make that adjustment to my name tag with the news of the appointment. And it was so meaningful to have my first honorable name tag ever be given by IABA, so thank you. When I met with everyone last year, from members, law students, attorneys, partners in law firms, and everybody else in the community that was there in attendance, everyone greeted me with such warmth and kindness and enthusiasm. It was deeply, deeply humbling. I'm not just saying that to be honest, to be modest. It was deeply humbling. And I remember at the time asking my husband and my parents, how do you respond to this level of kindness? Just saying thank you seemed insufficient and inadequate. But the pride that I saw in people's eyes, I realized, was not about me, but about us. It wasn't lost on me that the national conversation at the time was about the newly enacted travel ban, and that the keynote speaker last year was the Attorney General from the state of Washington talking to us about efforts that were underway in challenging this newly enacted law. And at the same night, the same time, our organization's leaders could simultaneously get up and tell you all that the governor of the state of California has just appointed one of us, an Iranian American from one of those 7 banned countries, to the Superior Court bench. And so the expression that I saw in people's eyes, that sense of pride, was also a blend of belonging and vindication, that we do belong. We're part of the fabric of America. And when you let us in, we're a source of good. So let us in, let our kind in, let our children in, and we will demonstrate that we're a source of good and meaningful contribution to this magnificent land of opportunity. And that was not lost on me, so thank you, Governor Brown, and thank you, America. And now when I look at all of you here tonight, it is really exhilarating to see how many of you are here, part of Iranian American Bar Association. When I was in law school and early in my career, there was no IABA. There wasn't even that many attorneys that I knew of. There were just a few sprinkled here and there throughout the states. I remember that my sister's friend's brother was an attorney down in Southern California, and then my parents' friend's son was practicing in DC, Incidentally, I have to give a little shout out. That was Babak Kububi, who ended up founding IABA years later. That's a story for another day, but I just wanted to do a shout out for Babak Kububi. But my point is, there weren't that many of us. There were just a few here and there that you would hear about. But look at us now. We have the Iranian-American Bar Association with 8 going on 9 chapters throughout the United States, boasting 1,500 members, about 200 of which are here right here tonight. So let's give a hand to IABA. And why is that so great? Why is that something to celebrate? It's because every single one of you adds to the diversity of the profession. And why is that so important? Why is it important to have a diverse profession? Well, every time that I select a jury, whether in my former career as a deputy district attorney or currently on the bench, I see the diverse population of jurors that walk into our courtrooms to serve as prospective jurors, do their civic duty, and serve. And it is extremely important, it's critical, that both the litigants at the counsel table as well as the judge overseeing the proceedings reflect the diversity of the population that we serve. In recent decades, our profession has recognized that it is critical that we send the message that our courts are inclusive and that anybody that walks into our courtroom, whether litigants or witnesses or jurors, that they see the people that are adjudicating the facts and administering law reflect backgrounds and experiences similar to theirs. The reason why that is critical and so important because it actually fosters public confidence and public trust in our justice system, and it makes our courts more accessible to the public. They know that they have somebody that looks like them deciding on these important legal issues. At the same time, it's also very important for judges to have colleagues that come from different backgrounds and experiences. In earlier decades, we had the judiciary be made up of primarily men, primarily white men. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against white men, but it's absolutely critical that we add to the diversity of the bench by, say, adding gender diversity, because women bring in a host of different perspectives. For example, a woman will be able to have perspective on what it's like to have a delayed promotion while balancing motherhood. And that's one perspective, so it's important to have gender diversity. An African-American judge might be able to add perspective on what it feels like to walk while black, or not. But that brings in another perspective, and it's very important to have racial diversity. A Middle Eastern judge might be able to add perspective on what it feels like to be highly scrutinized at the airport, or not. That brings in a host of other perspectives. A member from the LGBTQ community might be able to add perspective of what is the fair distribution of assets when splitting up in a same-sex marriage. And that brings in a different set of perspectives. And a white male may not have suffered discrimination themselves, but for example, may come from a lower socioeconomic background or have a family member that has a disability, and they might have the perspective of what it feels like to apply for government benefits and be delayed. Or it could be that the white male that we think of has not suffered any hardship and comes from a place of privilege, but how unfair it is to be assumed to be insensitive just because they haven't suffered discrimination themselves. So all of these perspectives, all of these ideas really play a part in having divergent views and interplay of ideas between judges who talk amongst each other. They can influence each other. There's discussions on and off the bench, and all of this will prevent bias, and in the long run, these exchange of ideas will lead to a more whole and equitable outcome for all. And that's why diversity is so important in the legal profession. I am delighted to tell you that during my class of appointment by Governor Brown, 34% were women. And that is really, really great progress that we've made. Additionally, when I attended Judges College this past summer, and yes, there is Judges College for new judges, and it was attended by 102 of us who had been recently elected or appointed in the past 2 years. And I actually brought a photograph, this was my exhibit B, that out of the 102 of us, 14 of us were naturalized citizens. That means people that were actually born in somewhere. And so we have come a long way, and I am very curious which one of you will be next. A final note that I wanted to talk about is the very important concept of professionalism and civility in the legal profession. On May 10th of this year, the Supreme Court of California approved the most recent version of the Professional Rules of Conduct, and I actually have the laminated poster, which will go into effect November 1st, 2018. I wanted to bring that for you as Exhibit C, but instead I have a pamphlet of the Code of Professionalism. This will go into effect November 1st, 2018, and I suggest that you all get familiar with it. At the core of it is the idea of decency. Now, I understand that you all work in an adversarial system, that whether you are litigating over monetary disputes in civil law, or you're advocating for victims' rights, or your clients' liberties in criminal law, I get it, I've been there. It's an adversarial system, and it can get quite contentious. Be a strong advocate, be a zealous advocate, but maintain your civility. Maintain your professionalism. And somewhere in the back of your mind, ask yourself, am I being the best version of myself? When you are in the most contentious conference call or deposition or writing a demand letter, arguing with opposing counsel in front of the judge in chambers or in open court, at every juncture, you are a representative of yourself. Are you being the best version of yourself? And there's a fine line between zealous advocacy and losing or maintaining your civility. Also somewhere in the back of your mind, since a lot of us here are members of a minority bar association, remember that it's not just about you and your client. You're also a representative of us. And in all of your daily interactions, you are a representative of our community. So guard it. Guard our reputation. Be the best representative of us. So I know that I am the only thing between you and dinner. I will wrap up, and I will just say that I really, really, absolutely will cherish this. Thank you very much to the IABA leaders for this recognition. I will display it proudly and prominently in chambers. And every time that I glance at it, please know that I will be reminded it's not about me, it's about us. Thank you.